Imagine living at the foot of a mountain covered in vineyards all the way to the summit. Your grandfather lived here, and his grandfather before him. The mountain gives fertile soil that grows the finest grapes in the region. Local wine is exported across Italy. No one has ever seen this mountain do anything dangerous. That is exactly how the people of Pompeii saw Vesuvius. In 1st century Latin, there wasn't even a word for volcano in the modern sense. The word volcanus referred to the god of fire, not a geological phenomenon. The last major eruption of Vesuvius had occurred roughly 1,800 years before the disaster, around 1800 BC. No living memory, no written source preserved any record of it. Yes, a powerful earthquake struck in 62 AD. It destroyed parts of the city, but Pompeians blamed it on ordinary seismic activity. The region had always been prone to tremors. They simply started rebuilding. Some buildings were still unrepaired by October of 79 AD. The geographer Strabo, writing a few decades before the eruption, described the summit of Vesuvius as scorched and suggested a volcanic past. But his readers were scholars in Rome, not bakers and merchants in Pompeii. For them, the mountain was just a mountain, until the day it stopped being one. Forget the stereotype of Romans reclining on couches with grapes. Most people in Pompeii ate standing up, in the street, from a clay bowl, and they did it every single day. The reason is simple. A typical Pompeian apartment had no kitchen. Cooking over an open flame in a cramped wooden home was a direct path to a fire. So the city developed a dense network of thermopolia, street food counters serving hot meals. Around 80 of them for 11,000 residents. One thermopolium for every 130 people, a density that modern Manhattan would envy. They all looked the same, an L-shaped stone counter opening directly onto the sidewalk. Built into the counter were round holes holding dolia, large terracotta pots filled with hot food. Lentil stew, braised goat, fish, beans, spiced hot wine. You pointed at what you wanted, they ladled it into a bowl. You ate, you moved on. The whole transaction took minutes. In 2020, archaeologists fully excavated one such thermopolium in the Regio 5 district. Vivid frescoes survived on the counter: a rooster, ducks, a sea nymph riding a hippocampus. Inside the pots, they found food remains: pork, duck, goat, fish, snails. All mixed together, something like an ancient Roman paella, served on that very last day, and never finished. If ancient Romans had the internet, it would have looked exactly like this: the walls of Pompeii. Over 11,000 inscriptions, scratched, painted, burned, on building facades, inside taverns, in bathhouses, on the columns of the Forum. This wasn't vandalism, it was the norm. A wall was the only public platform available to everyone. Politicians used walls as campaign billboards. Guilds officially endorsed their candidates, and someone nearby would scrawl, "The pickpockets ask you to elect Vatia as aedile." Sarcasm 2,000 years old, yet instantly recognizable. The walls of Pompeii are Twitter, Yelp, Tinder, and a campaign headquarters all at once. Only instead of likes, a deep scratch in the plaster. August 24th, 79 AD. Every schoolchild knows this date. It comes from the letters of Pliny the Younger, who watched the eruption from the other side of the Bay of Naples. The problem is that the original letters don't exist. What survived are medieval copies, transcribed by monks centuries later. And different manuscripts give different dates. Some read, the 9th day before the calends of September. Others, before the calends of November. For a long time, historians chose August. But archaeology has been pushing back with growing insistence. Heating braziers were found inside homes. Why would anyone need those in the August heat of southern Italy? The bodies of the dead wore heavy wool clothing and thick hooded cloaks. Shops contained pomegranates and chestnuts, which don't ripen before October. Wineries held sealed amphorae of young wine, and fermentation doesn't finish until mid-autumn. Archaeologists even found a coin minted after mid-September. Each piece of evidence on its own can be explained away, but together they form a compelling picture. The eruption occurred between October 24th and November 1st. Most modern volcanologists now lean toward this version. For 1,000 years, the entire world memorized the wrong date, because one monk in the 12th century miscopied a single letter. To understand the scale of what happened in 79 AD, you need numbers. And they are staggering. The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima released roughly 63 terajoules of energy. The Nagasaki bomb, about 84. Combined, approximately 150 terajoules. Vesuvius released 100,000 times more. Within the first seconds, the volcano hurled a column of gas and rock 33 kilometers into the sky, the stratosphere, higher than the ceiling of commercial aircraft. Every second, 1.5 million tons of superheated material erupted from the crater. Over 18 hours of continuous eruption, Vesuvius expelled roughly 4 cubic kilometers of rock, enough to bury an entire city under 6 meters of debris and blanket hundreds of square kilometers in ash. But the deadliest force was not the ash. Pyroclastic flows, waves of gas and debris at temperatures exceeding 300 degrees, raced down the slopes at over 300 kilometers per hour. Outrunning them is physically impossible. Even sheltering inside a stone building offered no salvation. Temperatures inside sealed rooms reached 100 degrees, the boiling point of water. After the eruption, Vesuvius fell silent. The ash settled. The survivors, those who had managed to leave before the pyroclastic flows, returned to the place where their city once stood. But the city was gone. In its place was a grey plain with only the tops of the tallest buildings poking through here and there. Grass grew over Pompeii, then trees, then vineyards. Local farmers called the hill La Civita, the settlement, vaguely remembering that something had once been there, but no one knew what. Real excavations didn't begin until 1748, and what they found stunned the world. The city stood untouched. Streets, houses, shops, everything in place. Food on tables, coins in purses, a dog frozen on its chain. Election slogans on the walls urging people to vote for candidates who had been dead for 17 centuries. Pompeii wasn't destroyed, it was preserved. Vesuvius annihilated a city and simultaneously kept it better than any museum ever could.